Hello and welcome to the second explainer video in the Sprint for PR series, Move Fast and Break the Far Right. This video is about what is looming if we do not take action. What's the worst that could happen over the next 5 years if the Labour government doesn't legislate for electoral reform? Please buckle up because it's bad, really bad. There has been considerable chatter in the media about a potential pact between the Conservatives and Reform UK at the next election. Apparently, a campaign group will launch soon that will advocate such an arrangement. Katie Bowles reports the campaign is loosely titled Unite the Right, and that a different title is expected. We need to prepare ourselves for what would happen if the Conservatives and Reform UK stood aside for each other at the next election. So let's do some crude calculations. In late March 2025, Labour, the Conservatives and Reform were neck and neck in the polls. If we alter the 2024 election results by applying uniform swing for all parties to fit these poll results, then Labour loses 122 seats, with the Conservatives gaining 53 of them and Reform winning the rest. We have not modelled results in Scotland, so it is important to factor in likely Labour losses to the SNP there. We can see that Labour and the Liberal Democrats could easily form a coalition government with a parliamentary majority following such a result. But what might happen if the Conservatives and Reform stand aside for each other, dividing the country up with around half of constituencies assigned to each party? If we decide 50% of the projected Reform UK voters vote for the Conservatives and 50% stay home, and vice versa, then the election result is flipped completely on its head. The Conservatives are easily the largest party, nearly 60 seats ahead of Labour, and it is the right-wing coalition that can easily form a government. The difference between these two projected results is not caused by any change in public opinion. It is purely a change in electoral strategy that could transform a comfortable progressive coalition victory into a comfortable right-wing coalition victory. This is not democracy. If the polls look anything like this at the time of the next election, an electoral pact between the Conservatives and Reform UK will be a very, very good idea. What is more terrifying is that these parties do not have any internal democracy to prevent them announcing this idea a month before the election date. Their leaders can just tell half their candidates to step aside, and they will have to do so. If they could turn another humiliating loss into a thumping victory, why would they not issue this instruction? Do not be surprised if this campaign group doesn't actually launch in the coming weeks. The right-wing parties have two enormously potent weapons for the next election: a stand-aside pact and the element of surprise. Do not be surprised if all talk of a pact is squashed and dismissed until the very last minute, so that other parties are powerless to respond when the pact is eventually announced. The most important piece of research that progressives can do into British politics is investigating what the effect of a Conservative Reform stand-aside pact would be. Preferential polling carried out at the time of the election last year suggests votes for progressive parties would transfer at least a rate of 3-to-1 to other progressive parties, whereas Reform and Conservative votes would transfer at a rate closer to 1 vote to a progressive party for every vote that goes to the other right-wing party. Professor Andrew Blick conducted research in 2022 into how progressive votes would transfer under a progressive stand-aside pact. He found an approximate 100% transfer of votes if it was clear the two stood aside, parties were endorsing the remaining progressive party. The second preferences from the preferential polling shown here suggest that 100% transfers might be beyond the right-wing parties, but a 50% transfer of voters is still likely to be a conservative estimate if they are selling an opportunity to get the party the voter genuinely supports into power. If a right-wing pact could cause a last-minute swing of anywhere close to 120 seats to right-wing parties and away from progressives, then progressives absolutely need to investigate what the true effect is likely to be. If the effect could turn a comfortable progressive victory into a comfortable right-wing victory, then the case for electoral reform in this parliament becomes irresistible. It is not acceptable for the Labour leadership to be made aware of the risks and to do nothing in response. The only justification that need be required is saying, it is clear that our electoral system is vulnerable to an undemocratic last-minute right-wing stitch-up, so we need to take steps to make sure our representatives reflect public opinion rather than Conservative and Reform UK's desperation for power. If progressives can't force electoral reform in this parliament, then we have to preempt right-wing shenanigans with some democratic shenanigans of our own. Professor Andrew Blick's research demonstrated that progressive votes transfer very well to other parties. If the smaller progressive parties can organize themselves in good time, they can concoct electoral strategies that neutralize the right-wing threat, while also ensuring an end to illegitimate Labour majorities. Such strategies are for later explainer videos. The intention of this video is to focus progressive minds on the need to take the threat of right-wing stand-asides seriously. The Brexit Party deployed stand-asides at the last minute in all Conservative-held seats in 2019, and both current right-wing parties seem far more motivated by power than the common good. If stand-asides are a clear path to power, they will surely take that path. Sprint for PR is a campaign being driven by volunteers. If you would like to help the campaign, please get in touch at sprintforpr@gmail.com.